Hey, it's Ol, and we are back for some more Shadowlands coverage. Once again, I decided, hey, it would be a good idea to work on the weekend. So here I am once again. And today we're going to go over professions. I'm just going to do a kind of, sort of a deep dive, more like a brush over all the different professions and little changes that are coming into Shadowlands, and they're pretty exciting. I decided that, hey, you know what, since I'm checking this stuff out anyway, I might as well share this and share my reactions with everyone. So, as you can see, I'm moving around. I'm going to be doing this like semi-live. And let's just get right into it, starting with the stuff that I just picked up. And so we'll start with alchemy. So we'll just go over and we're just going to look at the unlearned stuff and try to determine, well, what the heck is going on here? So starting off at the very top, we have Spiritual Anti-Venom. Cures poisons up to level 60, and that's okay. Now this is basically a poison cleanse that can be used in instances, so I guess I'd be a little bit curious to see if there's going to be any sort of outdoor content that's going to warrant needing some sort of poison cleanse if you don't happen to be a class that doesn't have an immunity or the ability to cleanse this thing themselves. So if anything, this might just be one of many different kinds of flavor items that are being added to the game that aren't necessarily like required to win, but it's just nice to have. We have a Cauldron here, and this is interesting too. So we have these. We have this. Just one kind of flask that's neat, a spectral flask of power. Now, of course, this, along with everything else, is just alpha stuff. Any of this can be subject to change, but this is a little kind of weird. This is a little bit weird. To only need agility, or I'm sorry, the fact that this thing uses agility is definitely an alpha thing. And then this also needs nightshade extract. Not sure what that is yet, but just 8 flasks to make a 30 use cauldron is going to be something to pay attention to. But let's move on to the potions here, starting with Deadly Fixation. So this particular potion has a chance to apply damage over time, and it stacks. And then it explodes, dealing damage, which is pretty cool. Now, here's the cool thing. If you look just under it, it says, if you consume this potion while your weapon is augmented with Shadow Core Oil, the explosion damage is increased by 10%, and that lasts 25 seconds, or at least the potion seems to last 25 seconds. Now, if we scroll down a little bit here, we see this Shadow Core Oil. I know I'm skipping ahead, but here's this Shadow Core Oil. And oils are basically coming back. We're going to get like, I guess, these temporary weapon enchants. They last for not very long, and thankfully they don't seem to have a very high reagent cost, only 2 Death Blossoms in this case, and a Crystal Vial, and there we go. On another side note, we don't see any stars, we don't see ranks here, which means that maybe they just haven't been added yet. I'm going to presume it's going to be that, but for all we know, profession ranks might be going away here. Related to the Shadow Core Oil are these Embalmers Oil, and basically you put this stuff onto your weapons and then it does cool stuff. So in this case, it has a chance to heal for a certain amount. And if you're already at full health, you get an Absorb Shield for basically the same amount. So it's not like it's something you can stack incredibly high. I still think this is pretty cool, but although I am a little bit curious about how it just heals you, the wearer, for this amount of health. That does make sense, but if you go up here to one of these other potions, I think it was this one here. Yeah, here we go. So this Divine Awakening potion, it causes heals based on the target's missing health, but it also does increased healing. It is a little bit weird that as a healer, you might want to throw on an Embalmer's Oil and then pop this potion for a crazy moment for some extra healing. It's just a little bit weird, like I said, that the Embalmer's Oil heals you and not like someone else, or it heals your target for some additional healing or something like that. But oh well. Let's move on to Empowered Exorcisms, which is something that deals damage to all enemies within 10 yards of a target. So basically another cooldown pot, but in this case it just does some AoE damage. Now it does say all enemies. It doesn't say 5 to 8 enemies. This is an actual AoE cooldown pot to use. Hardened Shadows seems to be just your good old armor, potion that you're probably going to ignore. I know I do. Phantom Fire looks like this is it's similar to normal potions, just some increased DPS that is augmented again by oils. I really like the oil thing so far. This one is really interesting. So this one, your next 4 mana-consuming spells or abilities will consume 7% of your health instead of using mana. So it sounds pretty cool if you're like maybe a healer or an arcane mage and you want to get some, something ridiculous out there. But mostly for healers, this is going to be like an incredible tool to use for, those crazy moments. Now, these 4, agility, int, stamina, strength, these seem to be just straightforward potions, nothing that we're not already familiar with. This is one where you restore mana, but you're standing still. Healing, mana, rejuve, these 3 are very familiar, so nothing special there. So going on to flasks, there are only 2 flasks, at least so far. But I find this really interesting. Now, it does have a pretty high reagent cost. Okay, that's nice. But it does pretty much have the same properties. Of course, the tooltip says agility. I happen to be on a mage character, so of course there's something kind of fishy going on here. But this might be a case where there are only going to be 2 types of potions. One for intellect, agility, or strength, and then another one here for stamina for tanks, and that's it. So scrolling back up here to this cauldron, you just need a couple of this extract and a handful of flasks, and then here you go. So it's kind of nice that they're consolidating all the potions into one single item. We don't need to craft 4 or 5 different potions. 4 or 5 different flasks and try to sell those on the market. So that is arguably something that's a little bit friendlier on the seller's side of the market. But yeah, let's move on to these optional crafting reagents. Now, these are interesting. I'll just go through a couple of these. This makes whatever item that you craft increase the duration of flask effects. Not quite sure how long that effect is going to be, but that sounds kind of cool. These seem to be items that you can attach to other crafting professions. So I'm going to go, we'll probably run into those eventually as we're going through all of these professions. But it looks like you can add some of these things in order to further customize and build up your character in a certain way, at least when it comes to this crafted gear. So there seems to be this pretty interesting game that crafting the characters that are based mostly on crafted items, that they'll be able to have a good bit of fun other than just making some leveling stuff that they'll quickly toss as soon as they start getting real gear. So this one, I've had this tooltip on here. This occasionally increases the wearer's strength, so it's a nice little proc. Let's see, are there any others? Increase the duration of well-fed effects. So maybe some of these are just like quality of life kinds of enhancements. Not so much a strength proc or an int proc or a throughput proc. Yeah, there we go. But this is something that I found pretty neat. We already went through the oils. These transmutations are fairly straightforward. They're transmutations. Those are going to be sticking around. This tooltip is a little bit interesting, though, that you're transmuting a pile of ore from Zandalar and Kultiris. So, not entirely sure what that might mean, but we'll just have to wait and find out. We have a regular trinket. We have a good old alchemy trinket that increases your main stats, and it increases the effect of potions. Nothing new there. And then we have these utility potions, Shaded Sight. So these seem to be just updated versions of potions that we already have. So increasing stealth detection. This one happens to, again, cure poison. Okay, that's kind of weird. We just saw that all the way up top, but that's okay. Spectre Swiftness increases your movement speed while dead. Hopefully you won't really have much use for this one. And then there's Hidden Spirit, which lets you gain invisibility. And that's pretty much it for alchemy. All right, inscription. Let's take a look at this one. So we have our usual inks. You mill stuff, you grind it down, and then you make things out of it. Whoop-de-doo, one-step process. Hopefully the process will be a little bit faster. As a scribe, having to mill and then create potions for hundreds of thousands of potions can be a real pain. These optional reagents are very interesting though, so it looks like Inscription is going to have a very critical role when it comes to crafting anything gear related in Shadowlands. We get these words of power, and these appear to upgrade item level by a certain amount. So this Word of Power 2, this one is more specific. It says an optional crafting reagent that can be used to increase the item level of the crafted item by 10. Now that's the level 2. So level 1 might be 5, level 3 might be 15, and level 4 might be 20. No idea, but that seems to be very powerful considering the item levels that we have in Shadowlands. I believe you start at around item level 70, if I'm not mistaken, but don't take my word for it right now. I don't have that on screen. I'm on a note. So don't worry about that too much. But going back to Inscription, this seems to be really cool. Really cool, really powerful, really necessary, great for money making, I am sure. Of course, so are tomes, which are going to be used to, of course, switch your talents, as well as maybe switch your soul binds from one to another. Not too sure, we're still not quite on top of that, but these are, of course, going to have their use. Of course, we do have Darkmoon Faire cards that will have their random procs or crazy effects or something like that. There was this Darkmoon card of death, which is a little bit interesting. What this does is it'll make a random card out of all these decks, but you also get a random blank card that you can use on a specific set. So I'm not entirely sure what's going to be. It looks like you're just going to make a bunch of these Darkmoon cards until you get a blank one, and then you choose between any of these, because you can see these blank cards here. You just choose the blank card and then add a reagent, and then you'll be able to make the kind of card that you want. So it's kind of separating the Darkmoon Faire card creation, that whole thing, into it adds a step, basically, maybe. That way you can, I suppose, sort of make your custom decks, I guess, maybe. Moving on, though, we have Vantage Runes as usual. There's a selection of weapons that scribes can make, as well as offhands, and then there's mass milling. Nothing special there. All right, moving on to Blacksmithing and Engineering, somewhere on the side. So, Blacksmithing, they can make armor. Surprise, surprise, right? But here's what I'm talking about with these whole optional reagent thingamajiggers. So this bone-crafted helm is slightly impressive. Don't worry about the tooltip too much, but check this out though. This whole optional reagents. So check this out. This is just a placeholder, mind you, but it reads: customize the final outputs of an item craft. Select from a variety of optional reagents to change the stat outcome of your items, guaranteed. You can fill 2 slots, 1 slot, or none. So not entirely sure what that means, but it looks like you'll be able to make up to 2 selections here. So it might be like, okay, this particular section might be for augmenting your main stats, whereas this particular section might be for quality of life. This particular section might be for oh goodness, I don't know, enhancing trade skills, and this, they might have their each individual section here. So let's actually take a look and find out if I'm right. So this one is armor. So I'll be able to upgrade my armor as a tank. That's kind of cool. Whoop-de-doo. Next one, I'll be able to augment a jewel. So this one will let me, from the looks of it, I'll be able to add certain stats. So I'll be able to add a secondary stat if I add one of these gems into it. Whereas this particular one lets me add a socket bonus. So then I can just go ahead and add whatever the heck gem that I like later, I suppose. So that's kind of interesting, that I'll be trading the random, like in this case, I can choose to focus on a certain stat, or I can just let it roll random, but have a bonus socket that lets me, add whatever I like. So there's a kind of gamble that we're taking there. But having this kind of balance between gambling and control, I find that really fascinating and pretty darn cool. I like that. Let's move on. So this one gives me damage increases. So it increases damage against beasts or ghouls or humanoids, and don't worry about the value too much, because 1 does not sound very impressive right now, but it sounds pretty cool. Oh gosh, it's going to be such a pain that I can only that I'll only be able to choose two of these things here. Although I can kind of get it. You don't want to have you don't want to weigh this too heavily. But yeah, let's move on. Okay, this seems to be the same thing. Maybe that's kind of intentional, that you can have 2 modifiers for attacking certain mobs. 3 maybe, actually 4. So this, I have a good feeling that some of these might be a little bit busted, which I'm not too mad about, but this kind of gives you an idea of what's going on here. And so far, I like that. I mean, maybe there's only going to be 4 slots here, between these 2 and, something like that. Who knows? We'll have to find out. Is there anything else here that we can kind of see? Okay, we're actually seeing some different stuff here. So this bone-grafted waistguard, it's a belt. And now we're seeing this right here. A chance on hit to deal some additional damage. Cool. Now I wonder if there's one for shields. That would be really cool if we can get like a shield spike. A shield spike again. That'd be pretty awesome. But I'm not seeing anything here so far. But I just find it really cool that some of these items, maybe all of them, maybe only a select few of them, but there are certain items that'll let us customize them in certain ways. That's really awesome. All right, moving on to some of these reagents. It looks like these are the reagents that we'll be able to use to modify these abilities. Some of them are clearly placeholders and don't have any values on them right now. And obviously, Sand Shifter is not going to be the thing that we use in order to make these things. But I'm really looking forward to future builds. But this gives me a really cool impression so far. Of course, there's a skeleton key that we can make. Whoop-de-doo. Here are some more reagents that we can check out. This lithium setting, I have no idea what this is. It looks like it's just a crafting reagent for something else. So again, some more of this crossing professions to make cool items and having them work together. It sounds really cool. It's going to keep professions relevant because we'll be helping each other out. This Shadowcast ingots, again, not too sure what this is. Now, specialized armor. Check it out, guys. Legendaries. Oh, baby. Arm guards, breastplate, gauntlets, greaves, helm, all the slots, baby. All the slots. Now, I looked ahead. I cheated a little bit. I looked ahead, and the transmog here is not available yet. This is actually a cool tier set. Even the icons show us that. But there's very little to go on right here. There isn't anything else to see. There's no modifiers, nothing like that, except for the fact that they're legendary. They're going to do something cool. We just don't know what yet. All right, so moving on to weapons. Is there anything cool or special here that I might be just kind of glossing over? Nothing so far. It looks like weapons just might be, so far, a kind of a straightforward thing. But we are seeing these weapon mods. Sharpening stones are also making its way back. So unlike alchemy, which we looked at just a little bit earlier, these last for an hour. So far, there doesn't seem to be any sort of restriction. So unlike some of the other things, it's not saying that it doesn't work outside of instances or that it only works inside of instances. This is just something that you throw on. And thankfully, they seem to have a very low cost to them. But yeah, just throw it on, increase your damage by a little bit of that min-maxing, a little bit of prep, but not super required if this weapon damage does in fact keep. I mean, this isn't a good example here, but I'm only looking at a level 10 character. But still, this is pretty cool here. I really dig this. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to engineering and see what kind of fun stuff they can make. How much money are we going to blow for nothing, right? All right, so first off, we have the belt attachments, as we've seen. This one happens to do some sort of crazy thorns damage. So it causes attackers to take damage if they are standing within melee range, it looks like. That's kind of neat. I mean, hey, whatever extra AoE that you can get in right now, right? Dimensional Shifter looks like it is something that can turn you invisible. Also kind of cool. I'm sure this has like a 10-minute to a 1 hour cooldown. And then Electro Jump, it looks like this is a blink ability that you can have on your belt. Not bad. Just like the other professions that we've been seeing so far, we have these different kinds of alloys or different kinds of reagents to help each other make cool stuff. There is a bomb, and this bomb bounces 5 times, which is pretty neat. Actually, I think that's really cool, except for the fact that it has a really high reagent cost. I don't know what that means. I don't know how much ore and other stuff that we'll be getting, but that seems a little punitive. The Holy Hand Grenade. This one only doesn't bounce at all, so this sounds very unimpressive. I mean, like I said, alpha. Who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of builds. And then finally, there's a landmine that we can throw down. Also very cool. Great for pulling, great for tricks, maybe a little bit of PvP stuff. Now let's take a look at the devices. Let's try to find some more fun stuff, all right? Disposable ectoplasmic specs. See the soul of those in the Shadowlands. That doesn't really tell me anything, but, well, that's okay. All right, a black hole generator. Opening a singularity, pulling in all enemies in an area. Okay, this seems really cool. I have a feeling that it's not going to be something that's viable in, say, like a raid fight, or I doubt that you're going to be able to go to South Shore versus Terran Mill, throw out a black hole, and get all 40 players to get bunched together so you can, murder face them, but oh well. Okay, a short-range teleportation unit. Teleport in a random direction instantaneously, unless it backfires. I kind of remember this from previous engineering items, and this sounds like it's going to be as disappointing as I think it's going to be. This Soul Shackler doesn't tell me anything, unfortunately. Okay, a Torghast reconfiguration rig. That sounds... what? Is this something that'll let me kind of re-roll the... Yeah, is this like a dungeon reroller of some sorts? That's kind of weird. I don't know where that makes sense. All right, we get a wormhole generator, and I love this flavor text here. Caution. Failure to operate within strict safety guidelines may result in double death, turbo death, aliveness. Hilarious, man. Now here's something interesting here. We finally get new glider kits. So, sorry, warlords. Are your days numbered? I don't know. You know what? Let's find out. I should probably find this out because this is going to matter a lot to me. Okay, Goblin Clag reduces falling speed. Okay, so we're still good. We're still good so far. So far we're getting new glider kits. This probably has just like a different look to it. They have some different reagent costs to them. It just depends on which area we get them in, and we probably just get a different kind of glider. So that's kind of neat. We get 4 kinds of gliders, 4 times the potential money. And gliders are going to be pretty useful in Shadowlands, I'm sure. Maybe not so much in Bastion, but I'm sure other places, absolutely. Let's move on to goggles. Nothing too surprising or nothing too crazy. We can definitely expect to have more goggles coming in, and I'm always a fan of that. We have these parts, or otherwise, kind of like a typical thing for engineers. They typically need to blow more money so they can make reagents, so they can build cool stuff. That seems to be no different here. There are scopes for hunters, no surprise there, and then they can make guns. It looks like it's only guns that they'll be able to make. That they won't be able to make cool wrench-looking maces and stuff like they could in Battle for Azeroth, which is slightly unfortunate, but you know what? That's okay. Let's move on to Enchanting and Jewelcrafting. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so at a glance, there are a lot of enchants that enchanters can do. Boot enchantments, bracers, chest, cloaks, gloves, optional, rings, okay, wands, and of course weapons. So nice buff, great buff for enchanting. I feel like enchanting just kind of got the shaft lately with them being unable to enchant the things that they used to be able to. They were getting fewer and fewer, and now it's kind of coming back. So let's take a look at exactly what we have to look forward to. So starting with this agile thing here, and it increases agility by a little bit. Okay, this is more agility, and that enchants boots to temporarily increase your speed after killing an enemy. That I find to be pretty cool. Okay, now for bracers, this increases intellect, okay, and more intellect, and to heal. Okay, let's walk this back a little bit. Let's try to figure this out. So it looks like these boots enchantments are designed strictly for, like, I guess, speed. Like these first two are just designed for giving you agility. These are just designed for int. I'm going to guess that these chest ones are mostly for strength. Let's take a look. Okay, that's int. Okay, I was totally wrong already. That's agility. That's strength. Okay, so maybe this chest one is. Let's leave this chest one alone. Let's do gloves. All right, so these gloves give you strength or gathering stuff. Here we go. Okay, so that's also strength. Okay, so it looks like deceptive, Blizzard. So it looks like between boots, bracers, and gloves, they're going to be stat-specific enchants that you get. Now, you could either get a little bit of your main stat for, like, let's pretend, since I'm on a mage, I'm going to care most about, hey, maybe I'm going to want to get this int buff. Okay, cool, go me. Because I don't really care about healing myself after killing an enemy. And as for everything else, then I'll definitely pick up this one. I'll pick up Speed of Soul, because this has nothing to do with my main stat. And I'll definitely pick up Gathering, because I happen to be a gatherer. It doesn't show here, but I am definitely a gatherer. Okay, so that kind of balances things out a little bit. It prevents us from stacking stats a little bit too much, but it still makes the professions themselves still feel fairly relevant. Now let's take a look at some of these other things though. So with a cloak, this gives me stamina and avoidance. This one gives me stamina and leech. Okay, so we get a kind of sort of survivability enhancement. This one is stamina and speed, and then finally this one is just stamina. So I guess that one is the cheap one. Go us. Now going with chest, this is probably the more exciting stuff. This one increases our intellect and our mana pool. Okay, that's going to be pretty interesting. Of course, don't worry about the values right now. This will increase our armor. Okay. This one right here will make our auto attacks and auto shots a chance to deal additional damage. Okay, this is the fun one. I mean, I'm sure it's going to not be a huge thing that's going to be our top damage done in details, but something that a lot of people are likely to invest into. Eternal stats will increase all of your stats, which these days isn't that big of a deal, unless they're talking about secondary stats too, which means it might be cool. And then there's sacred stats, which is basically the weaker version of eternal stats. Okay. We still have these optional crafting reagents, just like everything else, although we don't have a darn clue what they do yet. No surprise. Reagents, now these let us, it looks like these are, again, something that we team up with other professions for, in this case gatherers, to create crazy iron bars or silks or leathers that other professions can use to make cool stuff. So again, interactability between professions, awesome. Let's go with rings. These seem to be fairly straightforward. It's either crit or more crit. Okay, I should have figured that bargain would be the cheaper one, and then tenet would be like the better one. There are shatters that are going to be available straight away. Cool. Lots of flexibility right there. They'll be able to make a selection of wands. 2 selections of wands, I should say. And now the weapon enchants. Let's see how this looks. So this permanently enchants a weapon to sometimes increase your healing received when taking damage. That's not a bad one for tanks, absolutely. This one will increase your intellect, straightforward. This one will send out a wave of healing energy in all directions. Okay, that's kind of interesting, because this will cause us to, of course, adjust our movement or perhaps change our positioning depending on how potent this particular enchant is. Lightless Force will do damage. Ooh, this one's even better. Okay, you know what? Shucks, I'm going to want something like this for the most part. Hey, more threat, right? And then Sinful Revelation. This causes my offensive spells and abilities to apply a debuff, increasing the damage they take from the damage school associated with the triggering spell or ability. Okay, that's neat. And it's neat for some and not so much for others, right? So let's say like an elemental shaman might not find this to be great because they use a variety of different kinds of spell schools. For something like shadow priests or paladins, oh, absolutely, they really only have one school that they use, so this might be potentially great. Neat. All right, let's move on to Jewelcrafting and see what we get here. Gems, this is straightforward, right? We don't need to get too far into this, do we? Verse, speed increased by 1 for every equipped Shadowlands gem. Okay, so now these are interesting. Now I do need to go through all these. Great, okay. Alright, so this one, this is going to be used as a reagent. It can be placed in a socket or used as an optional crafting reagent to guarantee critical strike as a secondary stat on the crafted item. So I love this kind of control that we're going to get in Shadowlands, that we'll be able to take these gems and augment our gear in certain ways. Okay, so all these are pretty straightforward. These are definitely things that we just socket into a free slot, but they don't really give much. I'm sure it's not really going to be one haste, don't worry. Okay, so here's something with an effect. Periodically heal 100 health for every Shadowlands gem you have equipped. Okay, and then this one was the, there's this damage one that we were looking at too, and this versatile one, this seems to be just kind of out of place. Not a big deal. So, a little bit more speed, a little bit more health regen. Okay, that's kind of neat and flavorful. Not something that I feel required to pick up, but it's kind of nice. Now, as for these reagents, they don't seem to have any modifiers on them or any tooltips that really tell us exactly what's going on. Now, let's take a look at these necks and see if there's anything we can modify here. Anything here? Nope, nothing so far. So, we can't say for sure whether or not we'll be able to modify every single piece of gear or if there's just certain selections. Let's check out rings really quick and see if there's anything special here. Doesn't look like it so far. But here we go, specialized stuff. Okay, actually, these are legendaries. My apologies. So legendary rings are going to be in here too. This one happens to have a socket. And then as for the rest, no idea. Not sure at all. So from the looks of it, I looked at skinning and herbalism and one of the others. It doesn't look like any new... well, let me just show you. It doesn't look like anything new popped up here. Just want to give you guys the FYI. All right, next let's pick up on leatherworking and tailoring. Now, since these are similar to blacksmithing, there might be a lot of overlap, so I'm going to skim through this a little bit faster than normal. So if you haven't already, take a look at the blacksmithing section for maybe a little bit more info about how these crafting professions will work. But let's quickly go through here now. So we have these modifying reagents here. Not a big deal. Quite a few different kinds of leathers and hides, as usual. We have the armor kit as normal. Or I'm sorry, we have armor kits. These are kind of coming back. So these will increase our stamina by, by 2 if we put them on our chest, legs, hands, or feet. Now this is potentially a lot of prep, right? It's like, all right, guys, let's do this. Let's play video games. And we're all getting together. And then, all right, guys, everyone arm up. So we're putting on our armor kits and outfitting that stuff. We're putting on our oils and getting our food out and our cauldrons and all that stuff. So there's going to be a lot that's, kind of a lot of interactions going on, just when you're starting your round of dungeons or your raid or your BGs or things like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. Okay, we're getting drums, which if you haven't heard before, these items that are meant to give us buffs, they're going to be weakened considerably. So in this case, these drums are only going to give 15% haste as opposed to the normal 25 that we're used to getting on these consumable drums, which is kind of a bummer, but oh well. Let's move on. Let's see, we have plenty more legendary stuffs. And here we do actually get to see some optional reagent slot options here. So here we get some armor. And let's see, I think all of these are probably armor. Yep, they are in fact armor that we're able to modify here, which isn't bad. Of course, we don't know anything else about the legendaries, so we're just gonna have to wait and see on that. These, I'm going to guess, are gonna give us the same sorts of options. That's right. So we're just taking a look at the armor that's available. This I guess all that does is really hide what we don't have, which is kind of a convenience. Okay. So this right here, same thing. We'll be able to craft stuff. We'll be able to modify them a little bit. Now, based on what I'm seeing here, pretty much all the selections provide some sort of modifier or multiple modifiers here. And see, this one says that I can fill 2 slots, although there's only 1 available. This one tells me the same thing, that there's only a certain number of kind of slots that let me modify the armor or the stats here, which I still think is pretty cool. It just seems to depend on the level of the recipe that we're working on. There's only so much that we'll be able to do with it. So that, let's see, this one happened to have a lot of slots. Let me try to find that one that had 5. Yeah, this one has 5. Look at that. So Ghoul Slayer, here's a Jewelcrafting thing. Chance on hit to increase the target's vulnerability to physical attacks by 7. Nice. This one has an alchemy thing, which again, it gives us. So this is probably the example to look at when it comes to what's possible when it comes to modifying this armor. So I can modify the armor value and probably the item level, because these say Word of Power here. We have stat modifiers. We have quality of life things, well-fed and flask effects lasting longer. We have damage modifiers in case you want to do more damage to certain mobs, and then and kind of a general one here to just increase vulnerability, at least when it comes to physical mobs. Physical attacks. So this is cool. This is pretty neat. I'm really excited about this so far. It may not sound like it, but I've been talking a lot. But I am legit excited about this. So more armor. I looked ahead just a little bit. Don't worry, none of these transmogs are available. And then this is interesting. More mount equipment. This is a surprise. So this one, equip in your mount equipment slots to prevent you from being dazed while mounted. Does not work in battlegrounds or arenas. Well, bummer. Okay, so that doesn't tell me anything like, really surprising or cool. But oh well, can't complain. All right, let's move on to tailoring, and I have a feeling that there are going to be fewer and fewer new things to talk about here. Taking a look really quick, we're seeing some basic gear to craft. Okay, and if you're jumping straight to this section and you're not very impressed with what you see, I advise taking a look at some of the other major crafting professions, like especially leatherworking and blacksmithing, to get a little bit more info as to just what these mean. Right now, it looks like tailoring is largely unfinished. Now, there is a lot of stuff that they can make, but here we go. We're seeing some of these modifiers that let you change. Let you change stats, customize stats, or increase the item level, or do damage against certain mobs, but not very many. These right here are some legendary slots that we can, that all tailors will have access to eventually. And keep in mind that the recipes that you get, I believe these recipes, you get them from Torghast, that these are going to be account-wide, which is kind of sort of interesting when you think about it. It's like, hey, cool, I got this legendary blacksmithing recipe. Now all 15 blacksmiths on my server can get access to this recipe. That's kind of an edge case, but I mean, maybe you get what I'm talking about when it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not, it's not going to blow my mind. And of course, they make some basic bandages, which have very low values right now. Maybe it's because I'm level 10. Maybe it's because the values just aren't done yet. All right, and last but not least, since we're done with all the major professions and the gathering professions didn't really reveal anything new, we're off to cooking. So we don't have names yet. We have some very basic stuff that gives us secondary stats. Whoop-de-doo, not too surprised there. There's large meals, there are feasts. These have some very crazy looking icons. I'm going to be very interested to see what we actually get in here. But nothing too surprising or nothing too exciting here. But let's check out this, soul food here. Great. It's called soul food. And these do in fact have names, so there might be something to glean out of this. So Ardenweald Zone Witch. Wow, okay. So this will give me, let's see, this will grant me move speed for 10 seconds when I am near a beast while in Ardenweald. Members of the Nightfade Covenant, again the movement speed if they're near a slain beast. So I guess they get, I guess whether they're alive or dead, they get a movement speed buff. So this is a kind of, well, it's very much a zone buff, hence Arden Wield Zone Witch. So that's kind of neat that you'll be able to get a little bit more run speed there. A nice little bit of flavor. I think that's the whole idea. I think these are definitely, okay, these are definitely placeholder names. Zone Witch, Region Witch. Oh, that's okay. Let's take a look at some more though. Okay, so this will cause me to automatically levitate while in Bastion, and members of the Kyrian Covenant can glide while falling. Oh, okay. Well, that's going to be nice. So this will be a really cool quality of life thing that'll just make you not die from falling if you happen to be part of the Kyrian Covenant. Now, I wonder if, now it looks like this is just inside Bastion, which makes it not as big of a deal. Bastion doesn't have, I mean, it does definitely have cliffs and places that you can fall off and die at, but it's not too bad. Okay, for this one, this restores health and mana, but if I spend some time eating, I heal for a decent amount. Hey, here we go. Out of combat region, maybe they should keep these names here. So this will be great for Mythic Plus, great for most things actually. So if depending on the skill level that we need, which I doubt is just one wildflower, depending on the skill level that's needed for this will be a great thing for leveling. Cool. All right, for the Maldraxxus one, what do they get? Okay, so for this one, the buff is that while in Maldraxxus, you will become wealthy and get a bonus affecting... Okay, so we don't know. Okay, great. So they're going to get something. Yeah, just have no idea what it is. All right, Pungent Soul Pinwheel. This seems to be like the closest thing to a complete piece of food. Now, if I spend at least 10 seconds eating this, I'll become well fed, causing you to periodically belch, dealing nature damage. Oh boy. This is a hilarious food. Okay, not bad. So far, this doesn't have any sort of location restriction, so sure, just go ahead and throw that on and go for it. All right, Quiet Hounds. What's this one? Take on a ghostly appearance. So just a little bit of flavor. No problem there. The Revendreth Zone Witch. It looks like this is not complete either. But whatever. Oh, wait, no. Let me take that back. You gain Leech. Okay. You're going to gain a little bit of Leech. And I'm sure that if you are in Revendreth, you're part of the Revendreth Covenant, you get more. That one's all right. I mean, I think I'd be happier with just having this health and regen thing, but it's going to depend on the reagents, the reagent cost. Yeah, there we go. And then the Speed Boost Witch. All right. So this one, you're well fed and you gain speed for a short time after killing an enemy. Now, my hopes. Now this, I totally forget the name of the food. Please leave a comment as to what food am I referring to in Legion that gives you a speed boost whenever you kill an enemy, because that was banging, right? It was banging. Like whether you were doing Mythic Plus and you were just gunning through dungeons, or if you're just doing old content and you just kill a thing and it'll make you go faster and get you through that stuff fast, make you move quicker. Great. That's what this is an awesome food. I'm glad that this is coming back, and I hope that it kind of sticks around for a little bit longer. I'd really appreciate that. So that for now is everything when it comes to professions in Shadowlands. Now again, this is the first build, guys and girls, and other people elsewhere here at home and on the toilet. There's going to be a lot more to go through. This is the bulk of it though. Eventually, as we go from build to build, as we move through the alpha and into the beta, I'll be revisiting these once again to get really, to really deep dive into just what it is that, what's the flow of professions going to be like in Shadowlands? What's going to be the relationship between all the different professions? How are they going to work together? And of course, is this going to make us money? Short answer is yeah, we'll figure it out. But join me. Let's go on this journey together and try to figure that out for ourselves and figure out how. But that's going to be it for me. Please don't forget to like this video if this was helpful at all, and to subscribe for more of this, all the Shadowlands coverage, and of course, all things Warcraft. I'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.